Someone asked me earlier today, you going to watch the ACC championship game? Yes! Yes, I'm going to watch the ACC championship game. Is it going to be something that I instantly order a copy of and distribute to 50 of my closest friends? Probably not. But let's talk about it. North Carolina, Clemson, Saturday, 8 Eastern on ABC. Clemson currently a 7.5-point favorite. Clemson has played for their 7th ACC title in the past 8 years, and of course last year's the exception. They didn't even play for the title. And North Carolina's 9-3. So let me ask you, if we were to we rewind to July, and I just give you the following statements. Clemson's going to play for the ACC championship. They're going to at least win double-digit games. North Carolina is going to play for the ACC championship. What would you have thought? You think Clemson probably got back to normal, although you wouldn't be completely sold on it because you probably don't respect the ACC strength of schedule. But at the very least, if I told you North Carolina's playing for the ACC championship, we did a segment on them in the August timeframe, and I said, hey, I think we were a year too early on them. I think they may be better this year than they were last year. Turned out that was the case. You would have thought, if I crystal balled it and I told you, hey, North Carolina's going to Charlotte, you would have thought it's been a magnificent season. It's been a magic carpet ride for them. Everyone must be ecstatic. And yet, they lost last week. Both of them did. And the energy around the program is kind of, all right, yes, we're going to Charlotte. Okay. But in this college football playoff world in whence we live, it's being called a meaningless game. Don't tell the players that. Don't tell me that, because it's not that. But that's what the streets are saying about the ACC championship game. 31-30 last week. Clemson goes down. 30-27. North Carolina goes down. So here's what I want to know. Let's just start with the Tigers. Let's start with the formerly defending champions of this conference. Is there a killer instinct game? They haven't had it for the wire-to-wire duration of the season, but do they have it in them? You know what I mean. Do they have that Clemson game? The one where you turn it on and you go, okay, that's Clemson now. It's 27-3. Like when they played NC State earlier this year, I thought that was when they looked the most like that team. And it wasn't a 52-10 massacre, but North Carolina State never had a shot in that game. It was a true boa constrictor special. And I hadn't seen much of that Clemson. I certainly didn't see him last week. I didn't see him against Notre Dame. Well, this is the next biggest game they get to play. And so do you see that? The other thing, if you do see that Clemson as it relates to North Carolina, is that Clemson has a crowbar in their hand. And yeah, they can beat you with it, but really what they can do to your offense is just toss it in the spokes. And your bicycle comes to a grinding halt, and you fly over the handlebars, your face looks like street pizza, the end. You just get shut down. North Carolina had that happen to them. North Carolina couldn't run the ball, timing and rhythm disrupted. They just drop 8 on you all afternoon, all evening, all night, and you can't throw the ball to save your life. So Drake May is the most important player in this game, quarterback there for North Carolina. He needs to have his J.J. McCarthy game. He needs to do to Clemson what J.J. did to Ohio State last week. It doesn't have to be 15 or 20 throws. It needs to be a few explosives, and you need to draw Clemson in order to complete those explosives. But what can't happen here is they can't get shut down on the ground. And right now, you look at North Carolina's metrics, they're probably average at best. They're probably floating in the mid-60s or so in terms of rushing statistics, depending on which stat category you want to break down. You can't have that. Because if you play to that standard and nothing more, Clemson will shut you down. And as I said, they'll drop 8, and they'll do exactly to you what they did to North Carolina State, and it will be virtually impossible for you to find the end zone. You have got to hit explosives. You got to do it, and that has to come from being able to run the ball. What worries me is if you're looking at North Carolina's schedule right now, and I'm trying to sell myself on this upset, I want teams peaking. I want teams playing their best ball this time of year. I don't want them having lost to Georgia Tech and NC State to close the season, and then, oh well, consolation prize, you still get to go to Charlotte. That's why the fan base is kind of lukewarm towards this game. Now, having said that, if you want me to sell you, and you want me to use a recent historical data point, might I remind you, the Florida Gators sucked water through a garden hose, or South Carolina did against Florida. They could not get in the end zone. 38-6 was the final. And then they proceeded to dispose of 2 top 10 teams the next 2 weeks in Tennessee and Clemson. So this season has shown us anything can happen. There's a reason those are exceptions to the rule, though. It's very hard for that to happen. I will say this, though. Mac Brown, when you've put him in the underdog role this year, he is 3-0 against the spread. More importantly, he's 3-0 straight up. and motivation is certainly not an issue here. But Clemson, look, here's where I start to make the pick. They're favored by 7.5. Our model has Clemson all the way up at -10. To be fair, it is, I think, overvalued Clemson to a degree this year. But I also worry that if that organization, if that program has sort of recalibrated their goals and they know we can't go to the playoff, we can't win a title, what we can do then is use all that energy and just unload it in this game, I think you'll get the best of Clemson. I certainly think they'll be motivated coming off of what they did and didn't do last week. I thought they'd cover last week and they lost. I'll go right back to the well. I think they're going to win, and I'm going to lay the 7.5. I think they're going to cover. This is certainly not a best bet. This is not anything that I will be putting my own shekels on, but if I have to make a pick and the rules of the show state that I do, I am going to go with them.
Guys, thanks for watching Late Kick. Make sure and leave a comment. I love interacting with you. But most of all, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. That's how we keep all of this free.